Hey, Deanna Clark here, your cargo queen, and I'm here to provide you with some key highlights of a recent executive order that will result in a major overhaul to how goods are entered into the US. Now, in this video, I'll be focusing on the impact on foreign importers of record. In our sister video, which is entitled 2027 US Importer Reform, that focused on the impact to US importers of record. And I'll go ahead and cover that after I talk about the key highlights as they relate to foreign IORs, importers of record. So the first thing I want to share is that of the executive order. The executive order is entitled Strengthening Customs Enforcement. It came out on June 3rd. And, essentially, it's going to create some huge changes as it relates to foreign importers of record. What I first want to do is just define what that is, and where I use IOR, that's intended to refer to importers of record. So foreign import of record, this includes any entity that does not meet the definition of a US IOR, which I'll read in a moment. This executive order directs customs to scrutinize shell structures and artificial arrangements, that are essentially designed to circumvent this classification. Now, coming back to what a US IOR is, it must be organized under US law. It must maintain its principal place of business here in the US, so domestically. And it must have controlling beneficial owners who are US citizens or lawful permanent residents. So this is a much more stringent rule than what we've seen. And essentially, to come and get into these key highlights, importantly, foreign importers of record are going to be barred from filing informal entries entirely. Now, for formal entries, they can no longer use continuous bonds. There are caveats, of course. So they'd have to somehow individually demonstrate revenue protection to customs satisfaction, but that, of course, hasn't been flushed out yet. But customs is working on it. But they must either hold a CTPAT. So CTPAT stands for the Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism, CTPAT validation that must be held, or they must retain a CTPAT validated licensed broker. And I just want to share here that Customs, of course, has already set up a web page here at cbp.gov/trade/strengthening-customs-enforcement. And this web page is specific to strengthening customs enforcement, and it provides some other details down here where you can learn more about the purpose and how does it affect customs, who's affected by it, and why are foreign importers facing restrictions on their ability to file, et cetera. And I just talked about how they're going to be barred. So, with respect to foreign, other impacts related to foreign period, foreign everything, foreign export documentation. This is a huge change. Essentially, customs wants to pull the curtain back. So they want customs, that is, customs wants importers to give them any documentation that your seller, so the foreign exporter, was required to submit to its own government customs authority, okay, before shipping to the US. So, the invoice, the packing list. Maybe there was a country of origin declaration that they had gotten. Maybe there were other things that they had to do, other filings. I mean, there's definitely filings that need to be done, their own export documentation. Well, customs wants copies of all of that. Okay, so this is a huge change. Essentially, customs, we don't yet know to what extent customs wants to go through that. I don't see how they would be able to say, okay, you know what, for Guatemala, here are those requirements. That's correct. For here's Japan, there are those. And I don't think that's where they're going with it necessarily. I think, in some ways it gives them more data. So for example, where there was a subsidy, or if there was some other thing that went on there. Maybe there's something related to an assist and valuation. This data our government now wants, right? So this is an added layer that importers are going to need to do. You're going to need to update your import compliance manuals, figure out which things need to be done so that you're making these requests. Did that exporter need to file something related to the fumigation of its, if it's wood packaging, for example? Whatever the case may be, these things you now need to have a copy of that to give to customs, right? So it's something you'll need to discuss with your customs brokers. And of course, with customs brokers simply being your agent, the onus is actually on you, the importer, to make sure you give them the correct things. And I want to remind you, and the customs commissioner had just shared this as well this summer, that importing from the eyes of customs is a privilege. It is not a right. And they can revoke your privileges, right? They can say, okay, you importer, you cannot do this anymore. And because they're tying beneficial ownership and permanent, residency or US citizens to the right to import now, their ability to sort of latch on to who's actually responsible for this importation, who did something right or wrong. They're just going to have better access to you. So you want to be, really getting on top of it now if you weren't before. Moving on to another highlight, importers will need to now certify to what's known as the Countering America's Adversaries through Sanctions Act. Now that's under 18 USC Section 545, which includes our smuggling prohibitions, along with other statutes that Customs is going to put forth. So, so beyond just certifying to certain things, all of this information is now going to need to be provided. So, from, production method details, potentially, manufacturer, product, certain identifiers. And of course, on the entry summary right now, there's already the 10-digit manufacturer's ID. Well, they're going to want more details, where there's certain size specifications. What molds were used. They could be asking all kinds of things. So we're not going to know what those things are yet. With the executive order, there were certain dates, and targets put in place, most of which are with an outlook to the end of the year. Legislative recommendations are due before the end of this month, actually, before the end of July. There are other pertinent dates leading up to November 30th. That's their 180-day window. And of course, the purpose of this executive order is threefold. So it's about targeting evasion by importers. It's about tightening requirements on foreign entities. And it's really also raising, the stakes for non-compliance. So it's really pretty serious in terms of the changes. And I'm going to go ahead and go over those right now because, essentially where you get it wrong, you're going to just be facing a lot more is at stake. So some examples is that there is going to be a new minimum penalty, so a floor, if you will. Whereas before, our mitigation guidelines, which have been around for decades, so our meaning customs, sometimes we could get a penalty canceled outright. Other times, the importer could walk away with a $500 penalty. First time offender, amongst other mitigating factors. And now what they're looking to implement is that a penalty will be nothing less than 50% of the assessed penalty. So it's quite different. And basically that $500 penalty or no penalty era is over with at this point. Now, if you're a repeat offender, you're not going to receive any mitigation at all. And also minimum liquidated damages are going to increase. Customs is also looking to streamline how seizures work in general. They're going to just try and make it easier where there's voluntary disposal. So abandonment, that goods, they'll allow an importer to just abandon them. They're looking to increase bond amounts, bond requirements for high-risk cargo. They're also looking to authorize third-party disposal services and also to make use of the expedited forfeiture provisions under 19 USC Section 1612. So essentially, they're saying, look, if your goods are seized, if they're not meeting the requirements at the time of importation, too bad, right? It's on you to follow the law. And, really this burden of proof shifted. I think it might have been 2003 or something like that. But, with the Customs Modernization Act, it became, instead of, if you do something wrong, we'll let you know when you fix it, it turned into do it right or you will face penalties, right? So with that in mind, when penalties were issued, you could then come back and say, hey, we did XYZ, or it was our first time, we didn't know, and they would reduce it. Now your ability to have penalties reduced, it's just, getting tougher and tighter. So, something you want to do for sure is you want to go ahead and evaluate those importer of record relationships that you have. If there are foreign importer of record arrangements, you need to look at those to see if they can even survive this change. Because as I had stated earlier, there's effectively a bar on any foreign importers of record. So, that's not going to work. You want to go ahead and make sure that your beneficial ownership and supply chain positions, those disclosures need to be current and accurate. You want to go ahead and start talking to your factories and explaining, look, customs is going to be coming with these new rules. That's going to require me to give them a lot of information. And some of that might relate to who you're buying from. I was at a conference in Philadelphia. Customs had a conference, I don't know, maybe 2024. And they were talking back then about, look, we want to pull the curtain back, see what's in there, and really understand who's in there. And of course, recognizing that importers can ask doesn't mean the factory will tell them, because the concern the factories have is that you'll bypass them and just go and shop directly from who they're buying from. So look, it's not without its complications, I would say, both administratively for customs along for industry in practice. And, we'll see if there's any time given by the agency to help industry adjust, since at this point, we don't even know what it is that they're going to be requiring. But we certainly, are all waiting and looking out for something to come out that's going to set forth, here's what we're proposing. The notice and comment period will open up and they'll give the industry, so the general public, they'll give us a chance to weigh in and say, hey, this can work, but, or hey, define this way, however, etc. So as always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can go ahead and take a look down in the notes down below the video there and see how we can connect. Thanks for tuning in, and please subscribe for future updates. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider liking and subscribing to follow us as we simplify the complexities of global trade, one case at a time.